What in the name of Murphy Brown is this?
Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today.
I had to facepalm when I heard that actress Keke Palmer was announcing her pregnancy on Saturday Night Live. Now, actress Keke Palmer came on Saturday Night Live in a baggy brown suit, and as she was making her appearance on the show, she announced to the world that she was pregnant with her first child by opening up the jacket of that baggy brown suit to reveal her baby bump. Now, I found that entire sequence to be quite tacky, and I was shaking my head at that entire sequence because I remember all of the promise that actress Keke Palmer had when she started her career in the late 2000s. Now, your Keke Palmer started out as an actress who was considered to be a major prodigy back when she starred in the movie Akeelah and the Bee, and that movie story was all about a young black woman who wound up winning a spelling bee, and it was showing an actress who had lots of promise, and that promise was shown to us, I believe, in the Nickelodeon series True Jackson VP. Now, your True Jackson VP was a young black female executive that Keke Palmer played in her adolescence and early teen years, who would go out here and solve lots of problems at this corporation. Now, your Keke Palmer was playing this child prodigy, True Jackson, who was always a success, and that has me scratching my head, wondering how your Keke Palmer wound up on this road to failure in her later years. Because I'm wondering, how does a sister who was young, beautiful, and have great promise go out here and become one of these women on the road to becoming a baby mama, showing off a baby bump with a cropped shirt and a tatted side piece? I mean, how did this happen to your Keke Palmer? Again, a question I have to ask myself regarding what happened to one of the most promising black actresses who was in Hollywood in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Now, your Keke Palmer came on the air, again, showing off her baby bump in an extremely tacky fashion, announcing that she was pregnant with her first child, and I wouldn't have had a problem with her announcing her first child on Saturday Night Live if she was announcing that pregnancy with a husband. No, what your Keke Palmer was announcing was that she was not having a child with a husband. No, she was having a child with a boyfriend. And this is the sad, tragic paradigm that I've seen many young sisters and other women who are non-black go through living here in the South Bronx, a paradigm that usually leads to these women becoming single mothers and on the road to misery for the next 18 to 30 plus years. Because usually if a woman goes out here and has a child out of wedlock, what happens is that yes, there's a lot of happiness and euphoria at the beginning of the pregnancy, but usually around the time after the baby is born, that's when all of the euphoria from the pregnancy turns into dysfunction in the future. Because usually what happens in most cases of women like Keke Palmer who go out here and have a baby with a boyfriend, once he becomes a baby daddy, usually what happens is that man starts to become frustrated because he's no longer the center of attention in that woman's life, and because that man is not married to that woman and has no real commitment to her, what he does is once the responsibilities start to become overwhelming to him, is he decides to bounce, and once he decides to bounce, that's when that woman is left being a single mother, and that single mother winds up on the road to 18 years of misery, and her children wind up not winding up on the road to success. Usually they wind up on the road to becoming, either if they have a son, a effeminate beta male who becomes a man in crisis, or they have a daughter. The daughter winds up on the road to becoming a woman in crisis because her mother sees her as a competitor, and she makes her life a living hell over the next 18 years because she's competing for the same pool of men that she is competing for. And again, I look at your Keke Palmer and I just saw so much promise for success in her early years, and it deeply disappoints me to see your Keke Palmer go from being a girl who was True Jackson VP and the image of the ultimate success to winding up on the road to failure as a single mother. I mean, that is the saddest thing that I have to think about as related to Keke Palmer. And again, she wound up on this road, and I'm just wondering how this happened, because she had all of the tools for success given to her at an early age, and instead of using those tools for success to go out here and build a quality life for herself, she gets involved with the version of a Pookie, and then goes out here and becomes a baby mama. And that's just the saddest thing to see, a girl with all of this promise and success wind up on the road to failure. And it's just like she's just like the girls in my neighborhood in the South Bronx. I mean, but they didn't have the resources she had. But even with all the resources and the tools, your Keke Palmer didn't have the vision to go out here and build a successful life. And that's the saddest thing about it. Now, what's even more troubling to me than your Keke Palmer's just tacky and dysfunctional announcement of her first child is how your Hollywood is going out here and promoting single motherhood in the black sector of the entertainment industry. It seems like every black actress out here, or black entertainer, is promoting single motherhood as a social norm. And some, like your Tia Mowry, are so delusional, they're romanticizing the idea of single motherhood as a norm for black women. Now, I doubt the mainstream media would be out here celebrating single motherhood as a social norm if there were white actresses going out here having children out of wedlock, because I remember back in the 80s when they had the Murphy Brown show, and the Murphy Brown character started talking that single mom bullshit, and CBS quickly shut that show down, and many viewers pushed back on it because they did not want the ideal of single motherhood out here for white women. And most white women don't really go out here and support the idea of single motherhood because they believe it's dysfunctional. And sadly, many black women don't follow that model. No, they've grown up to believe that single motherhood is something to aspire to. And I believe that's just the worst thing you could ever do, because you're selling yourself short if you believe single motherhood is something that you should aspire to be. No, every woman should be aspiring for the standards of the Most High God, because the Most High God wants children to be born in wedlock. And I'm not talking about wedlock as related to the state. I'm talking about wedlock as related to the covenant of the Most High. Because under the covenant of the Most High, a man and woman are supposed to come together under him, and they're supposed to forsake their mothers and fathers and cleave together under him, and they're supposed to submit to him under his order and build families together in wedlock, so that the children will know who their father is, and they will also be a part of the Most High's order, and the whole family will be under God, receiving his guidance and instruction. Unfortunately, your Keke Palmer wound up spiritually lost a couple of years ago, and as she became spiritually lost, she wound up on this road to dysfunction, where she's bought into a lot of ideas from feminism regarding not having a husband, possibly not needing a man, and now she's with a boyfriend, which is a pseudo title that feminists created and your Madison Avenue in Hollywood created, because they did not want men and women to coming together under marriage. And this is what puts a woman like a Keke Palmer in crisis, because as they come together and have children out of wedlock, what that does is create a standard of dysfunction, and that standard of dysfunction is now being promoted and reinforced by many black celebrities, including your Keke Palmer, your Halle Berry, I believe your Nicki Minaj, and many others who have decided to go out here and push single motherhood as normal. Moreover, there's also your Tia Mowry, who divorced her husband and is talking about how single motherhood is going to lead to her finding self-love. But as somebody who grew up in the South Bronx, the single mother capital of the world, I can tell you that most of those women who wound up on the road to becoming single mothers they wound up on a road to misery. And as they wound up on this road to misery, many of those women wound up frustrated and overwhelmed, where the baby daddy, because she did not marry this man, what happened was he got overwhelmed, wound up leaving the child and the mother was sitting there overwhelmed, talking about how she just can't even be able to get through a day when she's got 2 kids. And I remember sitting there watching a TikTok of these single mothers who were talking about how they're so overwhelmed, how they can't even get a shower, how they can't even go to the bathroom to take a crap because they've got to watch these kids every day, and they're sitting there crying about this. And while I have to shake my head at them because somebody didn't teach them that, hey, you need to abstain from fornication and you need to avoid sexual intercourse at an early age and go out here and focus on the goals that you have in life, this is something that the young girls aren't taught, and they get involved with guys, go out here, have babies, wind up overwhelmed, and as they're sitting there, single mothers, struggling with these kids, they have no support system. They have no man to lean on, no man to go out here and take the load off so they can either use the toilet or go take a shower. They can't go out here and be able to live their lives. And that's the final fate that happened to many girls that I grew up with in the South Bronx. And it was just sad because, again, when I think of Keke Palmer and I think that of the road of success that she was on, I would never think in a million years that your Keke Palmer would be on the road to becoming just another hood rat single mom and participating in the hood rat behavior of showing off a baby bump and a tattoo side piece. I would have never thought of that as related to the promising young woman I saw back in the late 2000s and early 2010s when I was writing scripts for my show all about Nikki. I never thought I would ever believe that Keke Palmer would have become this type of baby mama. But now, sadly, I look at your Keke Palmer and it's just really sad to see her on the road to the same dysfunction as a hood chick in my South Bronx neighborhood. That's the saddest thing to think about, how your Keke Palmer took this fall from grace. Now, what is even more disturbing to me than your Keke Palmer's pregnancy and the way Hollywood is just pushing this single motherhood as a social norm for black girls, and how black girls are seeing this as a role model for their behavior, is the apathetic response from many I saw on social media regarding this announcement of Keke Palmer's pregnancy. Now, some people were saying, oh, it's just the way things are as related to black women, and it really is a shame because it shows how low standards have fallen in the black community, because I remember back in the 80s, before the teen baby explosion, how it was considered to be a shame for a girl to go out here and be pregnant without a husband. And I also remember how it was an embarrassment to go out here and come out talking about how you're going to be a single mom. Yes, there were women who were out here and raised their daughters dysfunctional to believe that, oh, if you get pregnant, you'll just get a case like me. But many other women were like, no, that's an embarrassment to me because it says that I failed as a parent. I failed to prepare my daughter for womanhood. I failed to prepare my daughter for success. And what's even more embarrassing is that Keke Palmer, even with all of the tools of success, just became as big a failure as the hood rats, who are all part of the South Bronx. And again, the response was, oh, it's okay. That's just how things go. No, that's not how things go. This is what happens when the moral position of your women is so low and your standards in your community are so low that you just say, oh, it's okay for a girl to go out here and get pregnant by a man out of wedlock, because that really reflects, again, how bad your community has become. It reflects how bad things have deteriorated in your community as related to moral standards, because if a woman like your Keke Palmer, again, a Hollywood success, is out here being a single mom, it really says that she and the people who raised her failed. It says that she basically failed as related to taking heed to the lessons that her mother was supposed to have taught her. And it shows that she really is not really observing the world. And again, it really shows how people are starting to see, oh, single motherhood is normal for black women, when it was never acceptable before the feminist movement and integration. Before the feminist movement and integration, we wouldn't have people celebrating people having children out of wedlock, and we wouldn't just say, oh, that's how it is. No, we would be ostracizing this person and saying that this is not what you want to be. This is a failure. This is a disappointment. And again, I'm just deeply disappointed, because here you have a woman who had basically everything at her fingertips, and instead of her grabbing the brass ring, she is now going to be grabbing the Similac and now looking to take care of a child out of wedlock and without a husband. And again, this is a sad result for your Keke Palmer, who wound up losing all of her promise and possibly will not be on the road to ever actualizing her potential. But what's even worse is we've got a black community that has become so indifferent to single motherhood that we believe that single motherhood is normal for our daughters, instead of demanding better from them and demanding better as related to how they carry and conduct themselves. Because no matter what age a woman is, single motherhood is unacceptable. And again, we should not be accepting the dysfunctional model of a Murphy Brown, where your white women didn't accept that as related to that show and single motherhood. And we shouldn't be accepting it for our sisters. No, we should be demanding better of our sisters, and we should be demanding that they go out here and live up to a high moral standard, because as these women go, so goes the race. And the way Keke Palmer is going, again, shows us how low the moral position is in here in America as related to black American women, because here we have a sister with a lot of promise, and we are celebrating her on the road to failure. Now, if you want to pick up some of my screenplay books all about Marilyn and all about Nikki, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And if you want to pick up some of my other positive black fiction on Amazon.com, such as the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Hayes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, and novels like The Thetas and A Recipe for Success and Eternal Night, you can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available for the first time in paperback, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Learn all the reasons why so many black women can't find a husband and why 70% of black women are single. Get your copy of Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com today.